Well, weird direction to take a sequel to Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius in, but I'm here for it. Hello, interwebs. I hope you are all doing well because I am super freaking pumped to be talking about the 2-episode series premiere of the brand new Noah Hawley series, Alien Earth. I have been waiting with bated breath for this show for numerous reasons. First and foremost, I am a huge fan of the Alien franchise. They are some of my favorite movies of all time, even the ones that people don't like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I don't think are necessarily great movies, but they are movies that I really love because they're at least trying to say something. They have these great philosophical themes, and if any of you have been watching me for long enough time, you end up knowing that I love messy movies with big ideas that try to go for something and maybe don't actually hit it. Then I do a movie that may be structurally perfect, do all the right beats, like nail everything it needed to nail structurally, but is just kind of a flat piece in terms of its ideas. So I will always take something messy. So I always love those films. And then I also really, really loved Alien Romulus, the fan service stuff aside. Why did he have to say, "you bitch"? Still annoys me. But regardless, I thought that movie was really solid. And part of the reason that I love the Alien movie so much is I am a huge horror fan. And on top of that, the philosophical stuff that it often deals with is themes of exploitation, control, corporation, bodily autonomy, women's bodily autonomy in a lot of cases, as well as, what does it mean to be human? How do we evolve as humans? What does it mean to be AI? And AI is usually a metaphor for exploited working class people. All of that stuff, as a person living in late stage capitalism, and also as a trans person, and also as a woman, I relate to very heavily, and I also am just a horror freak. So everything here is just my shit to a T. But on top of all of that, though, this was a show being made by Noah frickin' Hawley, who is easily one of my favorite creators alive right now. If you have not watched his show Legion, the X-Men show Legion, go stop what you're watching, whatever show you're binging right now, go watch Legion, because it is easily the most unique superhero thing ever. Probably one of the most unique TV shows ever, right up there with The Prisoner in terms of its visual and philosophical ideas that it does. I adore it so much. And then also he's the creator of Fargo, which is not as big swingy as Legion is, but certainly also a fantastic show, that one season notwithstanding. So just hands down was very, very pumped on that front. And I have to say, I was not freaking disappointed in the slightest by these 2 episodes. Holy freaking crap. I'm not gonna do a spoiler-free section and then a spoiler-filled section like I typically do with my Star Trek reviews. I'm just gonna gradually go into more and more spoilers, so I'll give you kind of a warning when I get there. But this was really, really wonderful. Just staying broad up front, though, just on an aesthetic level, they captured the look of the 70s Alien movies, but unlike Alien Romulus, which, again, even though I liked it, was trying to do more of a one-for-one with the 70s films, this show is doing the 70s aesthetic and yet updating it with its own flair. There's its own unique touches that it adds even to just the visual styling that's going on here that I really, really loved. For example, when we look at the computers and we have Wendy, and we'll get to Wendy and talking about her characters and moving things around, and there's that sort of chromatic aberration look to it. That's kind of a unique visual style to this, not just that 70s text on screen, green text on screen sort of look. So loved that. 80s, actually. 70s, 80s, I forget exactly when the first Alien came out, but around that time period. So it has its own look to it. And then on top of that, it very much has that Noah Hawley style in terms of its filmmaking. Just the editing, I think, is probably the most overt thing that people will recognize. The quick cuts to certain things, the crossfades that we get, where the crossfades appear on the TV when characters are having memory flashbacks, even when it uses the Ice Age movie flashbacks, which is a wild choice, and I love it. And when we get Nomad, I'm gonna call him Nemec because I just think Star Wars Andor. But when we get him having memories, we see the crossfade on his forehead. Just some of those weird touches, those visual flares are very much Noah Hawley. If you've seen Legion, they're not as far as Legion goes, but you can still see them here. And I appreciate that this show has a little bit of that art house style to it, because that's kind of what the original Alien was too. Yes, it was a more it kind of had the more mainstream Hollywood style editing in it, but it was also this indie piece when it was first made. So being able to like have those little visual flair elements is really, really cool. And then I've already talked about a little bit the philosophical theme. So let me kind of get into discussing the episode proper. So here's where I'm going to start touching on actual plot beats of the episode if you have not caught it yet. But I'm going to stay sort of, I'll let you know when I get really, really deep in spoilers. We're going to talk sort of setup for here. I love that the opening of this episode is essentially a whole ass alien movie that just takes place off screen. We get this ship that is taking cargo of alien creatures to Earth for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. And basically, we don't need to see it necessarily. There's a whole ass like alien movie, there's Xenomorph escapes, whatever, that happens, and it kind of goes a seemingly similar way because we get Morrow, who is the company man, kind of playing the Ash role from the original film, but is a cyborg human, which I'll talk about that in a second. But I like that he's kind of playing that same role, so we don't need to see it. It just it's crashing on Earth. We're dealing with that now, and we sort of get similar vibes from Morrow as an Ash character, but he's a cyborg instead of a full-on synthetic, which are going to be somewhat distinct here. I love the like setup that we get. Like it felt very much like the similar opening to Alien, but we just keep going from there. And then obviously the alien landing on Earth is the big deal of this show. It's like, oh shit, now we're dealing with it on Earth. And this is the first time I believe we're seeing Earth in technically, you see it a little bit in Prometheus/Alien Covenant. We get little pieces of it with stuff there. But for the most part, I think this is the first real in-depth look we get at Earth there. Also, I think that we're going to crash land on Earth in the fourth Alien movie. Regardless, first real look at it. And it feels very much like this is a sort of not just a sequel to Alien, but Blade Runner, which, there's some grounding for. I believe, maybe I'm misremembering, but I believe there's Weyland-Yutani referenced in the Blade Runner movies as well. So, there's precedent for that. And certainly they're dealing with very similar themes in terms of the android stuff. And here we get to meet a new company called Prodigy, which is run by the first trillionaire, who is very much a interesting sort of look at, our oligarchs today. He's very much, not pulling from the capitalist class that we got in like Blade Runner in terms of like the old style, running a big corporation. He is very much meant to like mirror the way that like people like Zuckerberg sold themselves as is like these boy geniuses. So he's sort of representing that tech oligarch sort of thing, which, very much in vogue, as they say. But what I love most is we start to get into the distinctions in these different versions of, for lack of a better word, post-humans. Because we get full synthetics, which we have Timothy Olyphant playing here. And then we get cyborgs with Morrow. But then we also get the main character, Wendy, who is a human consciousness uploaded into a synthetic body. And I love the way we learn this. Like we see her getting like having a moment in her sickly body and then getting uploaded, and also seeing all the other kids getting uploaded into these bodies as well, in that sort of like panning style, and we get to see it all happen, as they sort of pan away, see their bodies pan up, see the new versions of themselves going through. Like they found a few different ways to do that in one shot, and it was really well done to see that patches of time. And I love that there's so many questions left unanswered. We get sort of offhanded stuff of like they upload kids because human brains can't take it. They can't, upload into these new bodies. And then also they're just too old for it now. And then also we don't know, are they copies of their consciousness and the old version gets killed when they upload? Is it just downloading right in? Does it even matter if that's the case? Like, is there any continuity of consciousness or not? Because that's always the question for me in terms of like, if someone said, would you upload your brain to a computer? Well, most of the time I think like, well, I'm never going to be uploaded. There'll be a copy of me going into a computer if I ever get uploaded. Like, I'm not against uploading if that ever, happened. If we ever got the Prometheus sort of thing, if you ever watched Prometheus, which y'all should. But that was always the question of like, does my consciousness, me, go on? Normally I would just probably assume that it wouldn't be me. It would be a copy of me, but this me would die. And there are questions of, does that matter or not? But that's always the thing that gets me. That's always the whole thing. But we don't linger on that. What we do linger on is Wendy transitioning into a new body and even choosing her own name, Wendy. again, very trans themes here. And I love the philosophical conversations that we're starting to get here between Timothy Olyphant and this, I didn't catch her name, but the human doctor, about is Wendy, should she see herself as human? Timothy Olyphant very much being like, as we get throughout the episode into next episode, being like, you're just, you're not human anymore. You're not food. We don't have fear. You need to stop thinking that way. And the human doctor basically saying like, no, we should have her have human emotions, have her have human feelings, and like try to, use this as a way to conquer death itself, not just it's continuing humanity, just letting us be immortal. And so I liked that kind of conversation. There was some muddled stuff going on, I think, a little bit when we had her have the conversation with Kid, and I'll talk about him more in a little bit, but she brings up this sort of like, oh, this is about teaching them to be their best selves. I find that to be an interesting argument coming from her, because she's the one trying to hold also them back to being human. So I'm like, oh, what does she mean by be their best selves? Because that sounds like she's saying, let them choose who they want to be, and yet she's also the one being the ones trying to really tie them down into staying human. So how are we defining human in this sense? And I like this question of, what is Wendy and all of these kids that get uploaded? Are they human? Are they synths? Are they something new? And I feel like the show is going to be something new. She's going to choose something new. But can she do that when she has these two dialectics in her head, as well as she is seen as a tool, as something to exploit for Kid? And I love he has this conversation in episode 2 about, everyone thinks it's about money or ego, but I just want an interesting conversation. And it is still ego, but it's this, I want to get to know more, because it's hard for me to exactly say how we see Kid, but he has this sort of interesting thing of like, he wants to, like, he's bored with society. And I want to know where that boredom comes from. Is it boredom because he just sees it as capitalism? Is he like looking for something new? And I feel like it's like that sort of thing of, oh, I just want to feel something new again. And I'd be curious just to see how that gets explored as this, clear exploiter who does not see people as people, regardless of whether they're AI or human or, whatever Wendy is, whatever you want to qualify Wendy is. Like, he's willing to exploit them for his own entertainment and his own gain, but it's not necessarily exploiting in the way that is about money or extracting resources or extracting labor. It's something different, and I find that kind of interesting. Like, it's still exploitative, but different. And obviously we get like some of the same stuff with him, like when he talks to Yutani in episode 2, he like sort of offhandedly tosses out like, oh, people died when your ship landed into my space, as just a one-up on Yutani. He doesn't really give a shit about the people that died. He's using it, he sees it as an opportunity to get Yutani's stuff and all of their things and whatever the alien stuff was on there. But he uses it to shove it in her face. And so now we have this battle between Prodigy, this one oligarch versus another oligarch. So interesting setup already on that front. What is also fascinating here is I've talked for about 10 minutes or so, and I haven't even talked about the Xenomorph stuff. But the Xenomorph here is great. Like, straight up doing some really cool stuff with H.R. Giger. And again, what I like about how they're showing the Xenomorph in this is they're not hiding it. It gets some great moments, but it is still terrifying, and terrifying in ways that feel different than the other Alien movies. Again, I loved Alien Romulus, and there were some new things that Alien Romulus did, but there was also a lot of fan service stuff of like, let's do some things that the original Alien did. It's not as bad as, say, Alien Covenant, which at the end of that movie just became the first Alien movie in a kind of, copy-paste sort of way. So I still, again, Romulus has some stuff to say about droids and all this. Like, I really do love Romulus, so I'm not knocking it. I actually think it's a great movie. But this thing, I think, surpasses it in the sense that it is less bound by the past in specific ways. And it's getting to see, like, the Xenomorph chase after Nemec. Again, I know he's not Nemec, but I just keep thinking Nemec. I just want him to read his manifesto to me. like chasing after him, trying to get him, and all of that stuff is like done very, very well. The killing of all the aristocratic people in the like wearing the like British like wigs in the top of the tower is not subtle commentary, but I like it. I'll take unsubtle in this day and age, the age of the oligarch. I'm fine with you slaughtering the literal aristocrats in the upper class and literally in the high rise up above us. Again, not subtle, but I'm here for it. Yeah, Xenomorph can kill them. I love also the creatures that we get throughout all this. There's some really great creature design. It feels very Scavenger's Reign in a very cool way. If you haven't seen Scavenger's Reign, it's this great sci-fi animated series about humans crash landing on an alien planet, and you get to see this huge alien, like this very different alien ecosystem on that planet. It was really, really cool. And seeing this here, it's not just Xenomorphs, it's all these different aliens, like the eyeball alien and the cat was, whoa, grody. I love it. I love that body horror shit. And just getting to see like all these different possible aliens that can kill you in really interesting and weird ways because they're just different was just really awesome about Scavenger's Reign, is really awesome here. So liking that. Other things, again, I've touched upon Timothy Olyphant, who is fantastic as always in his ideology as a synth talking to Wendy. But I also just love his dynamic with the Lost Boys, as we'll call them in general, very much pulling from Peter Pan, as a Neverland, that sort of like, can we grow up sort of thing, because he's treating them like kids, because they are kids. They are literally being treated like child soldiers, like children literally being exploited for war and for profit and for all of these things, that this guy wants to use them for. But Timothy Olyphant is literally like trying to treat them like children, being like, no, it can't wait. We do need to deal and contain these animals. Like, it's kind of important to stop playing around. So I liked that quite a bit. The other thing here too that I think surprisingly works really well for me is Wendy's relationship to her brother. It could have very easily been tropey of like, oh, she longs to like see her brother and stuff like that. But it doesn't come across that way because of how much specificity is put into it. Like the usage of the Ice Age movie and like the quotes from that movie, like I that's a thing that you get to see quite often. I like characters like watching the same movie and having memories of it together and things like that. But like Ice Age is so specific and so unique and so weirdly camp in a strange way. It's such an offbeat choice for that. It's not like some 1960s or 1920s like Singing in the Rain or whatever that they used to watch. It's Ice Age, which like Ice Age is old now, which makes me feel old. But certainly it's like a choice for that type of beat that is unique and kind of campy and feels a little like tonally dissonant in a good way for the show. Again, feels very Noah Hawley, like a little off-brand choice that gives this such flavor. And also a Wendy wanting to reach out to her brother. Like, again, this idea that she is something new because she does have emotions and yet is also, synthetic. So there is something new going on with what they are. A new kind of type of humanity, or something beyond humanity, different than humanity. I'm sure the show will philosophically dig at that needle, you know what I mean, scratch that itch as we go further into the show. But what I also did like is that when she does find her brother, which is relatively quick, and again, I want to say the actress, I don't remember her name, but the actress who plays Wendy, so good at capturing that childlike energy, like does such a great job. But I love when they do meet and her brother does discover that Wendy is her sister. It's not played in the way that I would expect, which is him going, you're not really my sister. You're some freak. He accepts her as his sister pretty instantaneously. Relatively quickly considering the situation, I guess I should say. Like, he just gets enough proof to know it is her, and then he pretty much accepts her. And I really like that a lot. As a trans person, this idea that family, like, sees the new you, the new body that you're in, and accepts you, resonated with me, and I like seeing that on screen, just as a vibe. But also, it's just, like, not the typical route to take that in. because it would have been often played in that sort of more tropey, like, oh, you're a freak, I don't believe that you're my sister kind of way, just if for nothing else, to eke out an episode's worth of drama from it. But this show is not going to do that. It's going to just go with it and do something else, which is way more interesting to me. Because, you get there in the end, and if it had been like an episode or even multiple episodes of that beat, I would have been like, I know where this is ultimately going. He's going to accept her. No, he does. And we're moving on. More interesting stuff awaits, which has me very excited for the rest of the show. Trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to touch upon. I'm sure there's other things in this. I mean, Morrow is an interesting character with him being a cyborg. We don't get enough of him just yet for me to talk too much about like the distinction of him being a cyborg versus something else. Clearly, there's some form of bigotry towards people who upgrade themselves as cyborgs are within Earth society, so we'll sort of see how that plays out, and that probably goes towards why he is so willing to sacrifice and kill people and be a company man. That will probably be an interesting thread to pull at some point down the line, but certainly it's just being teased a little bit here, so interesting on that front. But yeah, what I'll wrap out saying on this is I can already tell that there is going to be a video essay in me on my main channel about this show at some point in the future. I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to do it right away, and I'm sure it'll be part of a larger video. If it's not a video essay on this show specifically, it'll be part of another essay. I already have one that I'm working on about androids and what androids, metaphors of androids in science fiction that I was going to use Alien Romulus as part of, so I'm sure I'll use some of this in that if this finishes before I finish that script. But yeah, anyways, saying all that, I really do like the show. It is so nice. Sorry to throw shade at another show that I'm reviewing right now, but it is so nice as someone who's been reviewing Strange New Worlds these past few weeks, to have a science fiction show that actually has depth in it. If you've been watching my Strange New Worlds review, you can kind of see that I'm watching that show, and it's like, it's fine. This season of Strange New Worlds is fine, but it doesn't really have any meat on its bones. It's certainly no Star Wars Andor, in terms of like, there just being a lot to dig into and talk about. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's junk food science fiction, which is not what I want my Star Trek to be. So I've been kind of like, drowning in a desert a little bit here since Star Wars Andor Season 2, and this show seems like it's perfectly capturing that. Wish it could have been Star Trek, but I am also here for Alien, because Alien is great. I wish it would also be a new IP, but that is the age that we live in. It's certainly not Alien Earth's fault. So, yeah, I am loving this show. I am curious to hear what all of you think about it, though. Did you like Alien Romulus, this season premiere? Are you going to still watch it? I'd love to hear all that down below, but beyond all of that, my friends, I hope you live long and prosper.